Hello and welcome to Lost in Chronologically Lost. I'm Matthew.
I'm David.
And today we finish Season 1. Well, originally Season 1. What is it now?
This is Season 2.
Okay, Season 2 of Lost in Chronologically Lost, and we finish with an absolutely awful cliffhanger for a very different reason than I'm sure it originally was.
Pretty much everything we're covering here is just what was actually the finale of Season 1. The actual finale, the flashbacks were just of people waking up, going to the airport, being in the airport, getting on the plane. You know, that kind of...
So we begin with Danielle just kind of comes up to the beach saying hi, and Walt sees her coming, and for a second I'm like, Walt, are you gonna wake people up? But then he does.
Yeah, she says the others are coming because there's smoke signals.
Yeah.
Again, this is something where it's like, I'll take her word for that this happened. They maybe in the flash things that they showed, they could have showed that, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
Maybe because they realized that the smokestack was terrible CGI, and they're like, let's just avoid that next time.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny to me that she's just like, oh, the black smoke comes, and I'm like, oh, the smoke monster? And then I'm like, wait, no, this is just regular smoke. I have no idea if they even thought of the smoke monster yet. But it does kind of get shown more now.
Yeah. So Jack doesn't believe her, and Locke does, and it's like, okay, well, this time, I guess Locke is right. So they get everybody working on the raft to get it pushed onto the beach.
They get this rail system, which I have to say looks like complete shit. That rail system looks useless.
Actually, not useless, because the cast actually did push that into the ocean.
I guess, but I'm not saying they could have done better. They're on an island. I just do think it looked bad.
But that's what they actually did. That was a practical effect. They literally pushed that on there.
I know.
So it's not...
Good job. But it still sucks.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so they're kind of just asking Danielle for info, and she says... she did say, like, we have 3 options. Run, hide, or die. And I'm like, what, you can't fight? But they basically decide to hide in the hatch, which they even bring Hurley to see it.
Well, Saeed thinks it's a terrible idea because he's like, what if this is where the others are? What if the others are in here?
I think that is a fair point.
Yeah,
like,
given the information that they know, it would make sense.
If they know there's another group on the island, so it's like, who else like would have this? I still am just kind of bothered by how I don't get why Desmond didn't open it when he saw Locke.
For Desmond, I think that, again, they had to write it retroactively to make sense and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know, but...
From what he's heard, right, is that, from Calvin, is that the people on the island are the hostiles. And the hostiles wiped out all, everybody else, right? So maybe he's like, okay, there's people out there, but... these are people who are going to kill me if I see them. But the world hasn't ended.
Okay, that's... Alright. I'll allow it. And either way, after these episodes, I can stop harping on that so much. Danielle says they need to get dynamite at the Black Rock in the Dark Territory. Yeah. The Dark Territory seems kind of silly to me, not gonna lie.
The Dark Territory is just the area that Danielle and her team were attacked in. So,
Yeah, I get why she would think it, but, there's I'll just say it now, there's a point later in the episode where Hurley is like, whoever named this the Dark Territory was right, because there was a bird. It looked the same as the rest of the jungle to me. I didn't think it was very dark.
It had a very heavy canopy, so that's dark.
I don't know, I feel like there was canopy all around. But yeah, so...
Well, also, did you notice anything else about that bird? Don't worry, and if you didn't, it'll come up again much clearer later.
So Jack gives a speech, and the fucking science teacher knows the plan now, and he's like, you want to keep something secret, don't tell Hurley.
Yeah, hey, not just the science teacher, Arst, okay? Come on, he has a name. He's a real person, too.
I don't like his name.
Yeah, no, it should be Arts, but it's not.
No. I call him Leslie, because we find out that's his name. That's how I'm referring to him.
Right.
So Leslie wants to come with them to handle the dynamite properly. I'm just like, wow, they're making him actually be important? Whack.
Well, you see, this is the thing. He originally did this, and then they added all the stuff beforehand. Later. With all the webisodes, and then the Ian Hollow scene, and...
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, this was like the only thing he did before.
I mean, I feel like he's had a little bit... I mean, he's
been in the background, but I don't remember.
I mean, he had the monsoon season thing.
Right, that's what he did before.
But he's barely had anything. But anyway, yeah, so Sawyer is mad that he's not being helpful, so for some reason that means he has to get shirtless, and Jack guesses he's a lumberjack.
Yeah, Jack, he gives Sawyer a gun for the raft, just in case, which turns out to be a good decision, honestly.
Honestly, like, there's been a lot of sus stuff with, like, who gets the guns or whatever. I was down with this decision. I agree with it.
And it turned out to be the right decision, because...
Yeah. Well, not that it helped.
Yeah, but they tried.
It was still right. Yeah. But anyway, so Sawyer...
You finally got the scene you wanted.
So I love this. He explains it. He just says, like, I met this guy. He's saying, he's dramatically bringing it up, giving the details, and he has a line that just... Sawyer is very often not someone I agree with, but he is on point here when he says, kids are like dogs. You knock them around enough, they'll think they did something to deserve it. That was a great thing for him to say.
Yeah, and it's... Especially with everything that Jack and his dad went through, just everything.
Yeah. Now, Jack did fuck up one time, but all the rest, it was fuck Jack's dad. Anyway, so he says that Christian wanted to apologize and he was proud, and we just see Jack. Jack barely even says anything. They don't need to say, like, that was my father. He just takes it, he thanks him, he cries. It was good scene. Good scene. A long time coming.
Kate says that she wants to go with Jack to the Black Rock because she says, I'm not very good at goodbyes, which is so fucking true. I mean... she is one of the worst I've seen. Yeah, think about how she said goodbye to her husband. She just shrugs him and runs away.
Yeah. So then, Charlie is collecting messages in the bottle. Hurley is like, don't look at it, and then Charlie tries to look at it, which is a dick move. And so it occurred to me later in the episodes, that I'm still mad at Charlie for not believing Hurley that he's rich. But we find out later, Hurley wrote in his note that he leaves the money to his mom, so it's like, wow, if Charlie looked at it, maybe he would have believed Hurley a bit more that he has that much money?
You know why I wouldn't believe it? Is because I'm like, if you're worth $156 million, why were you flying coach?
Because he is a down-to-earth dude.
He is. But I'm saying, if I had $156 million, I'm never touching coach again. Like, so they have a whole thing, they're getting to the ship, and Arst runs away.
So we find out that, first of all, this is where we find out his name is Leslie. And Leslie bitches out, and I'm like, wow, they acted like Leslie would be important, and then he just runs away, coward, and he's like, he hyped up how you have to be careful with the dynamite, and now he's just like, oh, just be careful with it.
Yeah, but then he comes back because the smoke monster is chasing him.
Yep, they're running, they hear him screaming first, and then it's coming in. Danielle says it's a security system, which seems like really technically true. Like, yeah, it kind of acts like one, but that is such a misleading way to describe it, and she really doesn't know what she's talking about.
See, the thing is, though, is that I think maybe until the latter half of Season 5, when they're writing it, I say latter half because the early half of Season 5 had the whole thing with Danielle and that sort of time flashback thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, they don't show what the origin of the smoke monster is until the Jacob flashback, which is near the end of the show.
Yeah.
I think they were really trying to go for something like that. Like, the island just had this thing, but then it's like, how do you turn that into an actual villain If it's
Okay, so it's like the island's white blood cell.
yeah, like that, kind of like that.
That's what they were probably going for.
The writing just changed. I mean, I think what they originally went for was J.J. Abrams said, "Oh, there's a mysterious monster, and we don't know what it is," and then the other writers had to figure it out.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I think J.J. Abrams, for all his J.J.isms, having a monster where they literally just never get a close look at it, that really just felt like kind of forced.
Well, we
like
finally get to
really?
see it here.
Yes, now we see it, but then I just feel like there were a lot of cases where I was like, really? Really? You didn't get a good look? You didn't look behind you as you were running away? So, we kind of get a better look at it here. It's like we see that it is black smoke, but we also just, like, don't, like, get a clear look at it, but at the same time, like, now it obviously is black smoke.
I don't know,
Also, so, I think you told me, I don't remember if it was on the podcast or not, but you told me that they got the sound effect from, like, a fax machine that was broken.
No, not a fax, it was a New York City taxi receipt printer.
Oh, yeah, receipt printer. So now I hear it. Now I hear it completely. Now it sounds kind of silly to me just because I recognize it. Now I'm like, yeah, this literally sounds like a machine that's, like, ticking and not like what smoke would make. And that's not something I blame the show for, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Walt has a nice scene where he gives Vincent to Shannon to look after.
Yeah.
Says Vincent to care him when his mom died, so maybe he can help Shannon.
That's nice. Yeah. We also see Saeed has a radar thing and a flare gun. So that's good, but ended up kind of screwing them. And we get the whole, this is the Black Rock. And the show has done this multiple times, but they do the big slow shot where you see, like, it's going along, panning around everyone as they all look. It takes like 10 seconds before it finally shows what they see. But I know it's a ship.
Yeah. Then we have a great Sun Engine scene.
Oh yeah, I love this.
Yeah, she gives him a dictionary, and then they just...
Yeah, and he thinks this is his punishment for making her suffer, but he has to save her, and they love each other, and it's great. So much better than early Jin.
Yeah, it's so good. And he says, you'll be safe with Jack, and she says, who's gonna keep you safe though? Like, I don't know, it's so nice. And then they have the whole, everybody saying goodbye to the people on the raft, and Vincent even swims after them, and
yeah, and then we get Charlie wants a gun.
To be fair though, he says it's to protect Claire, and clearly Claire did need some protecting.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have helped.
I mean,
like, we know
it could have.
It would. Well, we know it wouldn't have.
Well, yeah, but in theory.
Yeah. Against the general idea of protecting Kate, yes. For what specifically happens by the specific circumstances, no. Right.
And
so anyway,
so the ship crew, they wonder how the Black Rock gets here, right?
Yeah. My question was, am I supposed to already know that? I am really not sure.
Okay, it happened a long time ago, but you saw it, and Arth gives the right answer. He says, "Oh, like a tsunami must have swept it inland." And then when we see that happen, that's exactly what happened.
We do see that. When did we see that?
That was episode 2.
I don't remember, like, the tsunami.
I remember not exactly tsunami, but it was a large wave.
I really don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, and it crashes into the statue.
Huh.
Yeah, we saw it.
Wait, so
this is like, how is it so inland? He gives the right answer immediately. It was just a big wave pushed it in.
Science man. So they find Mr. Bones on the ship, and I gotta say, the ship being here at all and there being slaves, Richard's backstory did, like, perfectly explain this. This is not one of the explanations that has, like, holes and feels cobbled together. That's, like, perfectly fine.
Yeah. Locke has some wrong guesses. He's it came from the east coast of Africa when sailing here. It's like, you just think that because of where the island is, but actually it was going from the Canary Islands to Brazil, and it crashed here. So, yeah. And then we have I like this funny scene, where Arst is just venting to Hurley, basically complaining about not being a main character.
Yeah. Which is, it's funny. They're lampshading it, and he is also complaining about his third wife, and he just calls him out for being a click, and we get him being like that. Even it's that not just the teenagers, the gym teachers don't sit with him, which I'm gonna just say, I have had science teachers who looked like gym teachers. This is not a science teacher thing. It's just Leslie like doesn't know how to handle himself socially, which is kind of sad, but he is a gag character.
But it doesn't matter because they bring out the dynamite, he explains why it's dangerous, and then he blows up.
Which, it's so funny, like, here's the thing about it. He goes, like, it's nitroglycerin, the dynamite, when it gets hot, it sweats the nitroglycerin, and he's like, and I kind of like what he does, because he says, like, the dynamite is stable because it's nitroglycerin with clay. And so he's like, so he gets the shirt, and he mixes it in the mud to wrap it. I think that's kind of smart. But the thing is, he is dumb as fuck. Because you didn't need to pick up the stick that was the most covered in nitroglycerin.
Exactly, yeah, he picked up the one that was sweating it the most.
He picked up the most dangerous one. And what we see later is that Jack and Locke are, like, picking up the safest looking ones, and I'm like, yes, that makes sense. And, like, you didn't need to pick this one up. Why did you do that?
No, he didn't. And, I want to say something here about the minor... No, I don't even want to say minor. I just want to say that the characters in Season 1 of Lost who have died. Because we have, we have the Marshal. And I just want to say how kind of... I don't want to say lucky they are, because if they were really lucky, their characters would have stayed alive and they got to be on this, most popular show in America for a few more years, right? But, the Marshal dies, what was that, episode 3, episode 4 of the original? And he still gets to show up in a bunch of Kate flashbacks doing all that. And Ethan dies.
We get flashbacks with him.
We get all the Juliet flashbacks he's in. Sort of the Ben flashbacks.
We get a bit of time travel.
Yeah, time travel, he's there.
Also, okay, tangent, but I want to mention with that. So, when we see Locke confronting Ethan during time travel, I was, under the impression that if this was the future and, when Locke was named as, a leader of the others, which is, now that I know more about just, how evil and whack the others are and how they were just the straight-up villains, it is really whack how Locke becomes their leader. But anyway, I assumed that, there would have been a reasonable possibility that, Ethan would have sided with Locke and believed him. Just, time travel, there's no way he'd believe him, but it sucks because they would have been friends in the future. And it's no. Ethan was an asshole, a murderer, and a total villain. There was, no, when we saw that time travel, there would be no expectation of that working.
Right. And, even Boone will get to show up with more Shannon stuff. And now, Leslie here, he gets all those, webisodes and Nikki and Paulo, he's in those flashbacks, and same with Boone. And, it's just they really kept these Season 1 characters who died. They really kept bringing them back, to give them...
Because it feels especially Leslie just feels I think they realized that Leslie is funny. They could have done more comedy with him, and that's why they had all the comedy webisodes with him.
Well, I think it's also people were kind of complaining. They're like, "Wow, how come everything that happens on this island happens to just 10 people?" Right? Yeah. And
well, I mean,
but the thing about this is, all the Nikki and Paulo flashbacks, right? Nikki and Paulo was their attempt to be like, oh, see these characters who were in the background, they're now they weren't actually in the background, but this the point of them is these minor characters, they're doing things now. And are you enjoying this Nikki and Paulo storyline? Is it very compelling to you? Yeah. So people didn't actually want that. They wanted the idea of it, but you actually want everything to happen to the 10 characters that you like.
I want interesting characters who have interesting stories, interesting struggles, interesting skills, the characters who are competent, the characters who lead, the characters who take risks. And that's... you're writing fiction. Make it about interesting people.
Yeah. So then we
But
have...
anyway, it was also just funny as fuck to watch Leslie blow up.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't see it coming.
Yeah. So then we have the people on the raft are getting far away from the island and seeing how, large it is because it's just Oahu.
They're shocked it never got discovered because
That's
it moves and is magic.
Yeah. We have Shannon who's breaking down crying because she can't carry her and Moon's things, and she can't let go of Moon's stuff.
Saeed is being a bit romantic and like, I'll support you. Yeah. Kate and Hurley are talking about it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, Kate can totally handle this emotionally because she has dealt with people blowing up before. She is unfazed by that.
Yeah. Hurley thinks it's his fault because of the curse, and Jack is now like, well, maybe we shouldn't do this considering a guy just blew the fuck up from doing this. But Locke is treating this exactly just like a game. He's totally fine.
He literally asks Jack, have you ever played Operation? Which is it's like Jack doesn't even say, I'm a surgeon, because it would literally be too stupid to even say that.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important exchange here between Jack and Locke, which is, Jack says, oh, you like playing games, John? And he says, yes, I do. And I think that is a lot of how he sees these kind of things, is he sees it just as games. Like,
yeah.
I
feel like, and it's kind of like a game, but kind of just that, like, he lived his life wanting to be doing, like, important, interesting things and surviving, and he just kind of, like, revels in it. Like, he always wanted to be in this kind of position, so now that he's, like, okay with the idea that he might die, with taking risks. To him, that's just part of the experience. Whereas everyone else who never wanted to be in this situation is like, I could die, let's not do that.
Charlie has made a baby carrier thing for Claire. When Rousseau shows up and
just screams, I'm gonna use the word hysterically, and I don't like using that word because the history of how that word is used.
But when you've been alone on an island for 16 years, I think you're pretty hysterical.
Quotation, just like in quotes, hysterical woman. I think the history of that is really whack. But I'm going to use. But
I think in this specific context, it's accurate.
In part because she's crazy, and in part because she's faking here. She's doing it on purpose to get Charlie to leave.
Yeah.
So she is acting hysterical.
Yeah. Turns out that the scratch marks on her arm are from Claire when she was running through the jungle. So
I still don't know the full circumstances. But so there were two things I think you asked me about my predictions on a lot, and I didn't really have interesting answers. And for both of them, the answer ended up being something I didn't expect, and I like that a lot. I like when I think through all the possibilities, and I think I've thought through all the possibilities, but then it turns out there were possibilities I didn't consider. And this is a great one, and it's a good surprise. So even though I don't see much of it, it seems like Danielle probably intercepted Ethan taking Claire, probably got rid of Ethan because she had like guns with her, but then she wanted to take Claire's baby, and Claire escaped, fought her off. Or I guess Claire was still pregnant. There was no taking the baby.
Right. So then Charlie punches Saeed because he's mad he didn't get a gun, and then Saeed just grabs him by the neck.
It's just like, yes. Okay, first of all, like, even if you had a gun, you fell for her trick. Like, that wouldn't have helped. And I'm not even blaming him for falling for the trick, because I'm like, oh, she's pulling some shit, because I know she is obsessed with the fact that she lost her baby. But Charlie doesn't know that. Like, it's understandable that Charlie fell for it. But yeah, I love Saeed just grabbing him by the neck.
Yeah.
Also,
we have
I want to mention. So there are a lot of stories that are all about the cycle of violence, the cycle of war. And it's like things that are bad are done to them, and they perpetuate it. They respond to do that to someone else rather than breaking the cycle. And that's the issue we see here. Danielle is continuing the cycle of baby stealing.
I did actually want to bring this up because with with the Shannon revenge plotline earlier in these episodes, you made the point that revenge is bad. You don't like revenge, but I also firmly remember you not enjoying stories that are about not taking revenge, that are firmly anti-revenge stands. You seem to have a problem with those stories as well.
It depends on the story. It really does. There are some revenge stories where, it's a villain I want to see taken down. I don't want to see Locke taken down. I'm totally inconsistent. It depends on the story. But, if it's a revenge story, I'm down. If it's another story, but then there's revenge, I tend to be no, this isn't worth it. Anyway. Frankly, for a revenge story, make me hate the character you're getting revenge on. Simple as that.
That's too plain.
Well, anyway, so Locke has the plan of taking 2 groups of dynamite because that increases the chance that, because if one randomly blows up, they'll still have the other set. I think this is the worst idea ever because this is increasing the chances that somebody gets blown up.
I get it, because if somebody's blown up, then...
I get it from Locke. I don't get why, Jack didn't protest.
No, I really would have expected him to. It makes sense to me.
I think it's just greater odds someone gets blown up. I think Jack would be I don't want to increase that risk.
Anyway, they draw sticks to decide who's going to.
Yeah, but we know that Jack pulls a trick.
Yeah. On the raft, we have Sawyer reading everybody's notes.
And Walt's mad at him, and Sawyer's literally who the hell is Hugo, and how does he have that much money?
Yeah, which is amazing.
And this is why I remember, and I'm still mad at Charlie for that.
Saeed thinks that Rousseau was trying to trade Claire's baby for Alex, which
so I was
she
kind
is
of
trying to do that. It's not going to work, but
I kind of went back and forth. Is she trying to trade it? I was wondering at a lot of points: is she trying to trade it, or is she just I lost a baby, now I can have a baby? Which those are both dumb. And I guess I lost a baby, now I can have a baby is even dumber, because how the hell are you gonna feed that baby? Claire is a new mother, she can breastfeed it, how the hell are you gonna feed it? So that wouldn't have made sense. But this also doesn't make sense, because Alex was definitely raised as an other. Alex is not gonna give a shit about who Danielle is.
Well...
I guess some people are gonna... I guess that's a little unfair by me. Some people are I want to meet my birth parents, I want to know my real origins. But I think that's a big risk. I think that you couldn't expect to be sure that Alex would care and Alex wouldn't just be indoctrinated as an other.
But you also have to think that, first off, Alex would be 16, 15 years old, right? That's kind of a prime age for wanting to rebel against your parents, especially when your parent is Ben. Maybe she would want to welcome in another parental figure into her life.
That's true. Yeah, you're not exactly upgrading from Ben to Danielle.
I would say, I would take Danielle over Ben as a parent.
Okay, Danielle, Ben is bad, Danielle is crazy. I don't know, I guess... do you want stable badness or unstable, but, at least loves you, really? I don't know.
I don't think you can consider Ben stable when part of his seduction technique for Juliet is to send her boyfriend off to die and then show her his corpse. Does that sound stable to you?
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm surprised we never got... I don't know how important of a character Alex will be, but I'm surprised we never got, an Alex backstory. Maybe there still will be one, it just takes place during these events.
You just saw she was events. A kid, I think the most we saw was after she got stolen.
I just
Ben was pushing her on the swings one time, and that was it.
Oh, we saw him pushing her on the swings?
Yeah, one time.
Okay, I think I forgot that, or I just didn't
even realize that was Alex. Right before... You remember when Widmore got banished? It was right before that scene.
Huh. Yeah, I definitely forgot about that. But I just figured, if Alex ends up being important, then I would have thought we'd get, scenes of just, how Alex was raised by Ben.
Nice. She's just was raised in the others at the Dharma compound. It's not very interesting.
I think that you could make that I don't think there's a lack of potential there. It's just the kind of thing I would have expected the show to go for.
Right. Oh, okay. And then we finally had the baby being named Aaron, so I can stop saying the baby and I can start saying Aaron.
Yeah. So Aaron, Michael is letting Walt steer, and we get a conversation that was a long time coming where Michael tells the truth and says Susan didn't want him to be around Walt. And they're just finally being open about that, and it's like, it's satisfying.
Yeah, it's satisfying until the rudder breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then...
That is just... And it's like, they're like, we hit a log. And I'm like, what the fuck? You hit a log? They're just a random log? And then we see the log, and it is just a random log.
Yeah, but anyway, Sawyer gets it back, so whatever. The point of that scene is that Michael finds out Sawyer has a gun. Which doesn't actually lead to any real intrigue, because Sawyer uses that gun in defense.
Yeah, and he gives it back to Sawyer, too, and I just like... Yeah. I think that... I mean, I get that Michael's gonna be like, my son is here and you have a gun, but like they don't know what's gonna happen, yeah.
Right. Son talks to Shannon and says that, Boone died very bravely, and then asks if she thinks that they're being punished for what they did before the island.
For what they did. Because, I think that right now the writers did not yet know that Son cheated on Jin. But
it's a very accurate read for this scene.
Yeah. And she goes like, the secrets we kept, the lies we told. And I'm like, what about the cheating?
I would count that as secret keeping and lying. I would count that.
Okay. I feel like there's secret keeping and lying involved, but there's also more. Like, you can cheat on someone without it being a secret. You can do it in front of them, and it's still a dick move. Claire says that they aren't being punished, and, this isn't fate. And considering that the psychic was literally fake, maybe there isn't fate involved here.
Right. So Charlie and Saeed...
I'm not gonna stop harping on how that psychic was fake.
Yeah. So Charlie and Saeed get to the plane, the heroin plane.
The point of this is Charlie finds out about the heroin, and I'm just like, Charlie...
Not just finds out, because as we see later, he took a statue.
Yep. And... you know what? Yeah, I mean, we all see this and hope he won't do it, but you know what? Charlie before had the courage to give it up because he knew that he was running out anyway. I'm not saying it didn't take strength, but that was a part of the decision. Now he knows he has a big supply. And yeah, being an addict is... I mean, it happens on a biological level. It's not... You're not entirely in control.
I was seeing, again, some reaction to this scene, where as it's just, zooming in on his face and everything, the girl who's watching gets this thing, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and then it, cuts to a different scene. She goes, that means he did it!
Yeah. We get the smoke monster coming, or I think we see...
We finally see the smoke monster.
Yeah, we see a bit of smoke, and they're just... And I think the first bit of it they see is kind of anticlimactic. It's just a bit of smoke, and they're just kind of what the fuck? And then it starts ripping trees.
Yeah, and it tries to, it drags Locke along until...
Yeah, and...
Kate throws dynamite at it.
And, Locke has this whole thing where he thinks, if you just be still, it won't go for you. And it's not fated, it's tested. I'm just I know who I know who the man in black is. I don't think he gives a shit about you, Locke.
No.
I think you've just been really lucky.
Yeah. So back on the raft, they're talking about, all the translations that Jin knows now.
And Jin gives Michael the watch.
Which is nice.
Goddamn, nice. Yeah, and also I find it funny that, I'm sure there was more, but most of the translated words he was saying were just, nautical words, which I'm sure, useful. You should have more. You should help him just do general basic communicating.
Right, but this was just, you are going on a boat trip. You need to absolutely know this.
Yeah. So then we get Sun asking what Aaron means, which is kind of funny that, like, in a lot of languages, names are just words, but English is a weird exception. And then, like, names have origins, but they're just, we don't even remember them now. But Claire does not know what the origin of Aaron was, so I took the liberty of looking it up, and I obviously know Aaron is the name of Moses' brother.
So you see, Matthew, this will come up in the show later.
Okay. Well, I know it's Moses' brother. That's the Aaron.
Yes.
The Aaron.
Yeah,
But I looked it up further, and also, yeah, like, there is a big Judeo-Christian attitude to this show that I picked up on as early as with Jacob and Richard.
Yeah, they're not going to not mention that it's the name of Moses' brother. They picked
so yeah,
that
I know it's Moses' brother, but at the same time, I just thought it looked up and I found it interesting that it is unknown what its origin before that was. Like a lot of other names from that era, like we know the root word, we know what it was. That one is not known. There are theories, like, but there's like some totally different meanings based off of guesses of whether it was based off an ancient Egyptian name or whether it was based off an ancient Hebrew name. They don't really know what it actually meant at the time, which, I mean, that means that we're free to just make it about being Moses' brother.
Yeah. So Charlie gets hit by one of Rousseau's trap. So Saeed gunpowders the wound shut, which seems...
This is the most metal shit. Like, holy... That is... Like, and Charlie's like, you're a soldier, what would you do? And so that gives me the idea that, like, Saeed has done this on the battlefield. I think this is just...
That's something where I would be like, you know what, I'll just... this head wound is fine. I'll wait till I get back to Jack to fix this.
Fuck, to cauterize it... Saeed is a real one, and Charlie is a real one for going through this. This could have been Charlie's turning point, but of course, he took the heroin, so no.
Okay, but I should mention, that statue is still unopened. It has not been broken yet.
Okay, maybe he'll just use it to pray, I don't know. But I think it was cool. My only issue with it is that Saeed poured the gunpowder on him, and, like, most of it was on the wound. Some was pouring down his face. Some was, like, getting in his eye. I'm just like, maybe get that out of his eye before you light it on fire.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense. Maybe be a little more careful about how you pour it.
Then we have Hurley repeating the numbers. And Kate brings up, 23. That was the, amount for my reward. As a thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody else ever really bringing up these numbers later, other than really Hurley, I think. Like, specifically like that. It's...
Like, that one seems like it... I mean, obviously, in terms of the writers putting it in, it meant something, but, like, that one really could just be a coincidence. That one doesn't seem that significant.
Yeah, that's true. So then, Jack and Locke have this pretty much iconic scene. This is like a famous scene for the show of, you're a man of science, I'm a man of faith, kind of whole...
Which is, it's like interesting that, like, when you see characters who are all about faith, it's usually for an organized religion or just like a religion at all. Well, Locke just has faith in the island, but at the same time the island has, like I said, all that Judeo-Christian undertones.
And it's also the source of all light, or whatever, in the world. And
yeah. Like, Locke is right. I guess, like, it would be a long time on the island before we just got straight up confirmation that, yeah, the island is magic and, like, Locke is entirely right about how important it is.
Yeah, but he believed that right away because his legs got fixed, so he's just, bam.
Which it is, like, I feel like Locke just kind of made up his own religion, which I think is interesting because faith, I think, I am not a faithful person, but I find faith interesting because I like reading things from off. A lot of my favorite fantasy books explore the idea of faith, and like, the idea is that faith isn't about having proof; it's about choosing to believe anyway. And I think that's even more interesting in Locke's case because he made up his own belief. It's not just like, like with so many people, they choose to believe, but there is that element of you were raised on a religion. Locke doesn't have that. But at the same time, he also literally experienced a miracle.
Right. This... what you were saying about, faith is just about believing it. We've talked, and you haven't seen the show Arrested Development, so you don't know this. But the dad in Arrested Development, the one who is arrested and is in prison,
I did not know that was part of the show's premise.
That's why it's called Arrested Development.
I had never once heard that. Wow. I always hear people saying it's a great show.
Anyway, that happens episode 1, Arrested. That's anyway, in prison he becomes a rabbi, but not. He's just doing it to make money and to try and win points with the jury and everything. His yarmulke is they cut off the top part of the end of a shoe, and he's wearing that. Anyway, he gets this. He starts seducing I believe one of the defense attorneys, or maybe it was a prosecutor, someone involved in the judicial system, right? Who was Jane Lynch, right? So it's funny that she would go up to the fence at the prison courtyard, and he would, play with her nipples through the fence and everything. That's the thing. And she says, "Oh, your case is gonna win for sure," and then eventually he asks her, he's like, "How do you know for sure?" And she says, "Because I have faith." And he's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, from watching all your videos." He's like, "Those are fake videos! That doesn't mean anything! I'm gonna lose this fucking case and I'm gonna be in prison forever now!" And worse was that she got that from a blooper reel that wasn't even supposed to be part of the thing. Yeah, so, faith and facts. Hard to sometimes reconcile.
I'm still more about facts, but like I said, Locke did have a miracle. What else can you even call that? But
you can call that a miracle, but then he says there for a reason, and Jack says, "What was Boone's reason then?" And Locke says, "Boone was a sacrifice the island demanded." Yeah. And this is the reason, I think maybe because you hadn't seen this yet, this is the reason I was more on board with Shannon Revenge. Because he takes this attitude towards Boone dying.
That's fucked up, yeah. Honestly, believe that in your head. If you want to cope with the death and justify it and keep going by saying maybe it needed to happen, that's okay. That's not something you say to other people.
Right. I also want to mention, so this scene, after the show had ended, at Comic-Con, they added in a scene of Jacob and the Man in Black watching Jack and Locke have this conversation. And this is not canon. Okay, it's absolutely not canon. It's just a comedy scene that they made for Comic-Con, right? And he says, he's like, "How pissed do you think he's going to be when he finally opens that hatch and it's just some Scotsman in there?" And I think at one point Jacob even says, "I think eventually, in time, they'll understand the greater purpose, especially once they start jumping around in time." And the Man in Black goes, "Yeah, because time travel always makes things more clear." I would show it to you, but it has spoilers for things, so I'm not going to show it to you.
Well, at that point, Locke does say a lot of... Locke maintains his purpose through the time travel. That gives him more purpose to bring people back. And even Jack starts to believe they have a purpose around when the time travel is happening.
So, absolutely. This is a thing because, he's also, when he's arguing with Kate about, why was the dynamite in your pack? And he says, "I'm not going to let fate decide things. I'm going to decide." But we saw in the flashbacks in the 70s that he says, he's saying things like, "It's my destiny. I'm doing this just because I'm supposed to." And without real reasons.
I remember this because you reminded me of the scene much later, but like you mentioned, Kate tells him, "You know who you sound like," and he was crazy too. And it's like, yeah, part of Jack's arc is starting to think like Locke, I guess.
Yeah, by season 5, he's come around on the whole destiny.
Because I'm sure the island, to some extent, the island might only get weirder.
Right. I mean, it showed Jack his dad. That's something.
Yeah. We might see more. Because you hyped up for me early on. You said, "Oh yeah, dead people just appear on the island." Because we got that episode 1 with the Man in Black. You see dead people. I have not gotten a lot of that. I'm kind of expecting more.
I don't know. Isabella, Ben saw his mom. Sawyer heard the man that he shot in Australia.
Okay, but that's the whispers. That's different.
Yeah, that's...
The whispers are not enough. I want full-on seeing them walking around.
Well, we saw Jack's dad walking around, so...
Yeah, but that's all we got, and I want more.
Back on the raft, Sawyer says that Michael must have a lot of patience because he just started beating Walt.
Sawyer would... kind of glad Sawyer isn't around for his kid then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, good thing he's not around for Clementine.
Yeah. But then the radar's got something.
Saeed and Charlie...
Saeed gets to the fire, and of course, there's no one there.
Yeah. Rousseau, she just wanted Alex back, and they get Aaron back from her. They think Rousseau set all of this up, but she's like, no, I didn't start the fires. I heard the others say they were coming from the boy. And it's just like, you were right, Rousseau, but you were also so wrong.
It's like you were right, but then I don't get why they set up the fire though.
Maybe it's just like a thing of respect. Like, hey, yeah, we're coming. You're not going to do anything about it, but we're coming.
Yeah. Okay, so the fire wasn't... Because I was confused at whether the fire was her.
No, it was not.
Okay. So, but yeah, I think it's a big ask to expect to be able to trade that for Alex. They would probably just take Aaron too.
Yeah, well, Saeed even says, she's not thinking rationally. She's a mother who lost her child, so it's...
Yeah, and it's been on the island alone for 16 years.
Yes. Eventually, they fire the flare on the boat, or the raft.
Yeah.
And the boat finds them, and it's the others.
It's such a... Yeah. And it's like, I know... I'm like, okay, this is probably that, because they're not getting rescued. Sawyer, like, I know Sawyer's a big part of the plot, Jin's big parts of the plot, they're stuck. But I still just, like, it's like, what if this was a one-season show? Or, then, yeah, this would have been the source of the rescue. And it must have made the viewers feel so happy to see that spotlight find them. But, no, they're fucked.
Yeah, Sawyer gets shot, Walt gets taken, and the raft gets destroyed.
Yeah, and Michael is not happy, and I mean, so first of all, it's just gonna suck for them to get back to the island with the raft. But it's also like, that's why Michael is gonna not want to, now Michael's whole plot is gonna be about getting Walt back, not about leaving the island. And also the others are just kind of dressed up as hobos for this, I guess.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, especially because the main guy who's talking, we've seen him before in one of Juliet's flashbacks, wearing just normal clothes. He doesn't have that scraggly beard. He's just like a normal dude. But they play dress up.
Okay, I don't know if I'm crazy here because I'm not looking at a picture of him. I'm going off my vague memories of him from when I watched the episodes last night. But I kind of feel like him with a beard reminds me of how Ted Cruz looks like with a beard.
Oh, what? No, don't...
Okay, I think I'm crazy. I think I'm just crazy.
Yeah, that's... Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so...
And yeah, the others, I mean... The others are obviously evil. They mass murdered, obviously. And they have... But they...
They exiled the guy who ordered the mass murdering.
Okay. I guess. But they have this attitude like, oh, we're protecting the island, so maybe that makes us morally gray. No.
I don't think morally gray. I think they are completely... They completely believe they're in the right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I feel like there's still a feeling that they might be morally gray, but it's like, no. You are stealing children from loving parents. They clearly don't want to go. This is, again, the worst... I get that, like... the island is magic. So you think that, like, if a child was fated to come to the island, they're important, so they're fated to come join us.
I mean,
so I get that there's a level of fate. Walt is special, but I still think, on a logical level, that is the worst way to recruit people. Just go recruit gifted people around the world. Don't steal children. It's just like stealing children is very evil. And also, I mean, you've mass murdered, you've murdered, you're obviously evil. But yeah.
Yeah. So we see Charlie bringing back Aaron, Shannon hugging Saeed. We get the reveal that Charlie did take the heroin statue.
Yeah.
And then we see Desmond waking up.
So,
now, this whole thing of Desmond...
Let me guess. Was it the opening to season 2?
Yes, it was.
So, because I noticed, we've seen this before, and you've told me this is a common thing before, that they like the scenes of characters waking up, making food, everything, where we don't yet see who they are.
Yeah,
And
so this
I
had
think
people
that's a
shook
fun
when season
directorial
2
thing.
started.
And like we saw that with like Pierre Chang, for example. But
Pierre Chang
so,
with Juliet earlier too.
Yeah. So we see him getting ready, and the whole idea is like, who is this? He's in, and just like, oh, we're seeing some guy getting ready. How is it going to be important? And we don't even see who it is. And then we see him getting ready, and he has this whole mirror thing set up, and we see him getting ready, and then it's like, wait, this is inside the hatch, which I gotta say, that's probably the coolest way they could have revealed what was inside the hatch.
Yeah.
Like I already knew it was Desmond, so I'm just like, okay, let's see Desmond in that place. But like with it being that Desmond is in there in that little facility, this is the coolest way to reveal that. Just
Right.
like by showing us something that's showing like, well, this you didn't expect this was in the hatch.
Yeah, and then they kind of again repeat that with the others, where it's Juliet going through a normal day. She's baking muffins and hosting a book club, and then oh my god, that's where the others live. Like,
Yeah.
Jack says that after tonight they're gonna have a lock problem, which
Also, wait, I want to mention something, and that's that Desmond plays some music, and this is continuing the trend of the show having awful taste in music.
No, that's a good cake. No, don't. That's a good song. Don't come at me. But that's a good one.
No, there's no spice, no edge, no excitement. I was bored by it.
What? Fuck off. Make Your Own Kind of Music is a great song.
So I while I'm watching them set up the explosion, it's like, yeah, Desmond is not going to be happy about that probably. Okay, I'll get to this soon. But so also the breakfast scene feels so happy with Desmond, which feels like, I mean, this is the first scene with Desmond they show in the show. It kind of feels like they hadn't yet figured out what Desmond's character tends to feel like. Because Desmond...
I think Desmond is happier now just knowing that the world isn't over. And he's like,
I guess. But he's still alone here. He still doesn't have his girl. It's still just like...
The real confusing thing is that he was still taking the vaccines even though he knew there was no plague.
But Desmond tends to be like the try-hard sad boy, and it just felt so jarring to me to have Desmond with this vibe.
See, the thing is, though, you know what? Okay, no, I'm not going to say anything.
Alright. So...
right before
Hurley
they blow up the hatch,
numbers,
Hurley sees the numbers.
Drops a flashlight, sees the numbers, and he freaks out. And I think this is a good cliffhanger. The numbers on the hatch, what do the numbers mean? And we get this really interesting contrast between Locke thinks this hatch is their destiny and they're important, but Hurley sees the ultimate symbol of bad luck on it. I think that's really interesting. But I know it's just Desmond, so I know it's not really a big deal.
Yeah. And so they blow up the hatch as Desmond gets out a gun because, obviously. And they stare down into the hatch and Desmond stares right back up at them.
Yeah. Through so many mirrors that I doubt they can see each other clearly yet.
They can't. They cannot.
Yeah. But, yeah, cool way of revealing it. I feel cliffhangered. I'm sure it was a worse cliffhanger to just see them looking down that without knowing what the hell.
And then you have to wait several months to find out what the hell's in there.
But for me, I'm just like, I want to see them start interacting. I want to see the reactions to who Desmond is and what Desmond does in there. I want to see Desmond reactions to there being people out here and that they're plane survivors. I want all of that. And at least I can just watch the next episodes for when we record our next episode.
Yes. So, do you have anything else to say for what do you think is going to happen in Season 2? It's hard to say because the big reveal of Season 2 is the hatch. But you've already seen the hatch. You've already seen a lot of the answers from the hatch. So it's kind of just, you know.
I just feel like...
what do you think is going to happen to, Walt and the raft people?
I'm not sure how the raft people will survive. I mean, they definitely will. But I don't know if I should just expect, like, they're going to wash up on the shore somewhere, or if it's going to be something more complicated. I don't really know what to expect. And I expect it's going to be a long plot line of trying to get Walt back.
Right. So I hope you'll join us next time where we are covering episode 44, November 4th to 5th, and episode 45, November 5th to 6th.